just before we started recording, you were talking about essentially uh, being guided by intuition. And I'd love for you to just get into that a little bit as we've just started recording and explain what you were just explaining to me.
Okay. Maybe helpful to sort of put the premise of what intuition to me feels like. Um, I sort of feel my intuition, around in my chest sort of area. That's the feeling of it. And then it kind of corresponds to this like whisper inside. And I like to think of intuition sort of like what instinct is to my human body, in those sort of reactive ways. Intuition is to like my higher self and my spirit. And so I want to be able to connect to that and be able to follow the wisdom or what's in store with that. Intuition can feel a little strange sometimes because it's most of the time my brain thinks it's so irrational. It's because it's like intuition is like the complete circle of knowing. It's like I've already gone through all the steps, gotten to the end, and it's like, yes, this sense of knowing, but I can't rationally explain it because I haven't gone through the steps of how I've arrived at that. And so that brings up complications for following my intuition. Back home, I can get a sense of, buy this share or, it was like buy this crypto thing or sell this crypto thing. And for no like logical reason, or don't go out to dinner tonight, or leave home and go for a walk at this random time and go on a random path that I wouldn't usually go on. And when I've followed this sort of whispering voice, magic or things that I couldn't have logically planned happened that were pretty amazing. And and so when I get this sense of knowing, it's so easy to just question it because it seems really illogical, irrational. And so that's a muscle that I really want to attune to and practice. So we were talking about traveling, and traveling for me, I love just sort of exploring the world, um, different people, what different parts that connects into myself, and yeah, have that experience of just exploring. But the main part of it is using that muscle and just refining that muscle of intuition. So the traveling in the world becomes like this sort of just gym, like this simulated sort of gym where I can just follow my intuition and what comes up. It's like a big canvas and just see what happens. Because I don't have a plan. I just book the flight. Rarely, maybe I book the first night, and and I just want to see what unfolds. So that can look pretty chaotic, or it could look like, oh wow, how do you do that? But I'm actually just actively wanting to follow my intuition more than have a plan. And yeah, it's been really fun and eye opening for me, and it's yeah, definitely something that's really important to me to do, so I can then take those learnings or the relationship. I want to build the trust in the relationship with my intuition. So when I go back home, the relationship's even stronger.
Yeah, nice. So
Yeah.
it's something that you can train yourself to deepen your connection to, such that, if I understand correctly, with time, you start to realize I'm just being guided by intuition. I don't even need to any longer really tap into it because the connection is very strong now, and that I'm living from intuition. Would you
Well,
say that that's the
okay.
ultimate goal?
I like that would be very cool to have that sort of complete where it's just like automatically happening like that. I think I have a feeling in my life it'll just bring greater challenging times, not challenging times in like horrible conditions, as in the my intuition will tell me something that'll require a lot of trust. And so it's
Mm.
like I'm building up trust for when that happens. And then that'll build a certain trust. And then that's building up for the next one. So I think there'll still be doubts about it, because it'll just be stretching it to greater limits. But at least I will have a foundation to question it, to think, hmm, I've felt this doubt before a million times, and hopefully have the resistance, or not the resistance, the resilience and relationship to follow through with it.
Right. And then I have evidence in my past now of having done what my intuition told me, even though logic was saying, don't do that. And then I did it because my intuition said so, even though it seemed irrational. And I got an outcome that was like amazing.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Because I'm sure the irrationality will just continue to exponentially grow as well.
Right. Because intuition, like you were just saying a few minutes ago, intuition and logic, or you were alluding to the fact that logic and intuition just don't function in the same system. It's like a different kind of program, and logic is going, yes, straight, then right, then left, because this and that and that, and intuition is just like, go there, and you're like, why? And then
Yes.
takes you kind of exactly where you need to be.
Yes, yes. Have you seen that movie about one of the greatest mathematicians from India, and then he goes to England? He's super genius.
No.
The greatest mathematician movie. The Man Who Knew Infinity. Really, really cool movie. Um, so this guy is in India, not really like highly educated, gets into mathematics and starts just writing down all these mathematical formulas and just becomes obsessed with it, obsessed with it. And the teachers are looking at it going, how do you know this? Where is this coming from? And he's saying, God's speaking to me. And then the teachers end up getting in touch with, could be Oxford, you know, one of those big universities in England. And he submits their stuff and they're thinking, how could this guy arrive at this? Like, this is preposterous. Anyway, long story short, they invite him over. This isn't going to ruin the movie. But in these, to prove these formulas, they need him to do proofs, which is just like showing your evidence and, you know, comparing and all this so you can show how it arrives at the thing. And he's just telling them, guys, this is a waste of time. Like, I have all this stuff coming through me, and forcing to do these proofs just puts him in his head like he hates it. And it's taking up so much time, hundreds of hours. And I won't continue what happens in the movie. It's definitely worth the watch. But I like to think of how intuition is just like that complete knowing, as if a part of you already went through it all and just got the knowing, and then it distributed the knowing, and then you get to act on it. But then the intellect and the rational part is like, wait, but I don't see the steps. I can't see how that logically works to get to that endpoint. So it must be irrational. Like, it must not be true. Um, so I forgot if you asked a question, but I was just talking about how the system of intuition may not always work in the system of intellect. I feel like intellect goes only so far with our lower mind and our sort of emotional and mental plane. But then that bridge with the spiritual plane is with intuition.
And then you said it's almost like intuition has gone through it all already.
Yeah, yeah, it knows the wisdom. It's almost as if you could say your spirit is beyond time and it just knows.
Which would imply that everything has already happened.
Well, that's still talking about it in a time sense, you know, happened as if it's like a fixed thing. Maybe it's an that would be looking at it in terms of circumstances. So maybe yes, maybe no. I like to think of it more as sort of uh what is just resonating with my energy. And then beyond what I visually see, my spirit or my intuition knows what's going to resonate. And so it looks like I'm having to navigate through these sort of material and physical plane, but on an energetic level, it's extremely clear because I'm just moving towards what resonates. But on the surface, it could come in all sorts of different costumes, and mentally, it may seem extremely irrational and not link up. But to my intuition, it's extremely clear. But has it already happened? I guess there's a few different arguments for that.
Mm,
Maybe.
right. Yeah. Well,
Yes,
whether
does believing that inspire you to just holding that belief that it's already fixed. I've got a few Muslim friends and they believe that, you know, it's already written in the stars. The amount of money you'll ever make is written in the stars. What's going to happen is already written. And for them, that provides them a bit of sort of, gives them a sense of certainty in some ways and safety.
Yeah, in a way, you could say that is very comforting because then it kind of means, well, you don't need to stress about stuff because whatever's going to happen is going to happen anyway. Which is actually the case whether it was all written or not. What's going to happen is going to happen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It synthesizes. You can still have your free will in whatever that means to you and do your thing, but then that's what happened. So that was what was going to happen.
Yeah. So if it's a good thing or a bad thing, or if it's something you want or don't want, either way, it's coming. So there's nothing you could have done to stop it, essentially. And if it's a mistake that led to it, then you were always going to make that mistake. I think that's quite whether that's true or not. I think that's probably quite a good belief to have because then it stops you from thinking from responding to your mistake in a way that disempowers you, as in, oh, I shouldn't have done that, like, why am I such an idiot, blah blah blah, why am I always doing this? Whereas if you're like, well, this was always going to happen, then you're like, what's the logical response is to think, well, what did I learn from this? I was always going to make this fuck up, so what did I learn from the fuck up so I
Yeah.
can avoid it next time?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And in my mind, when you think of the fuck up, like I'm always thinking the fuck upwards in this upwards trajectory. Like,
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah,
Am I
I mean,
fuck up?
that was a big part of like my early 20s where I was really trying to live what I thought was the right life for me. And terrified that I would miss the train on achieving what I wanted to achieve. It was like this daily anxiety, monthly panic of, um, you know, will I get to where I want to go? And it feels like I'm just trying to catch water in my hands, and it's just slipping through, and I'm just trying hard to just lap it up. And I was about 20 years old, thinking I'm like, okay, I'm this guy who's about intelligence and health and spirituality. Those were things that I really enjoyed, and just exploring the mind, exploring the world. Went overseas. I was in a relationship at the time, and I was feeling a bit uncertain about it, and I wanted some more variety in my life. And that variety came out in the forms of just like total extremism. Like we were partying for like 10 days straight, on drugs, smoking meth for about pretty much most of it. Came home and, you know, some terrible stuff happened there. Came home and just shame spiraled. Like, just got a PhD in shame spiraling within just a few months, and my self-confidence then spiraling down, and it's like it builds such a momentum. The more shame spiraling about self-confidence, then I feel less of it, then more shame, then withdrawing, like really sort of getting nervous and shaking to go out, like even to social parties or gatherings, or even hang out with sort of more than 2 or 3 friends at a time. And my voice would start to croak and rattle, and then I'd second guess myself, and then it's just like a house of cards. It crumbles, and I felt I was crumbling. And the shame was this heavy weight that, to combat it, I picked like a fixed identity that I thought, okay, I now have to be really, really strong and not a piece of shit that I saw myself as. Because my identity that I'd rooted myself in, like thinking I'm all about health and empowerment and all this, I now felt like, well, what my experience that I just had doesn't match that. Like, who am I? Um, and so completely questioned my identity. So then I sort of rebounded by thinking, all right, I need to be this super strong person, not be pathetic and weak. I was highly judging myself that sleeping more than like 3 to 5 hours was weak. Humans don't need it. Need to work way more. Go to the gym pretty much every single day. Um, And I remember it was like winter time in Melbourne, and if anyone knows that, like, it's pretty cold, and the ocean there is pretty cold as well, and I would just be in the ocean at, like, 6 a.m. every morning just screaming. And, just primal screaming. And, yeah, it was from the outside, it's like, "Oh, wow, that guy's working on himself," and I was really just berating myself, like, with a militant attitude. And yeah, I remember during that feeling like I had fucked up my brain, that I had was on a great trajectory and now I wasn't. Now I just have to recover just to get back to normal and just be okay with my lot in life because I had fucked my opportunity. Yeah, just total beration. And I remember during that time just praying to whoever would listen, Krishna, Moses, Jesus, Allah, everyone they were all on my mailing list. And I was just binge sending prayers every day, pleading to reset my brain. I felt I had I was pretty prideful of it beforehand. "Oh, I got this really great brain. People really praise me for my brain." And then I felt like I'd completely permanently fucked it. And so I remember praying, "Please reset my brain. Please reset my brain." Couple months later, in this just rigid attitude to life and myself, I I was driving home in my friend's car, and I usually sit in the back right seat. And this time I sat in the front left because the friend who usually sits in the front left wasn't there. So I sat there. Anyway, driving home, long story short, car comes, smashes into us, up on the curb, hits a pole, wraps around the pole a bit. And what's crazy is it hit that back right seat where I'd sat every day. So if I was in that seat, dead on impact. In the car, I was wearing a seatbelt, still cut my neck, headwind in the windscreen, smashed it all up. Luckily, no one else was injured, but I got this injury to my brain. And it was like a bleeding trauma on the brain. So then my memory went, and similar thing happened. It was a big reset, but then my short-term memory went. I was second guessing it. It went even further, and they said uh, your brain will probably take like a year to heal, but there's nothing you can do. It's like if you've sprained your ankle, definitely don't step on it. Elevate it, maybe walk it to get some flexibility, but you can't go too hard on it. And it's like with the brain as well. Just had to sort of rest it, stretch it a little bit, but it was crazy. I was sleeping like 3 times a day, just not using this muscle much. But yeah, just to touch in on that, it's wild in life how when I'm sort of going on this direction, how then it's involved in a car crash. You can draw parallels between car crashes or things happening in a car. I remember someone told me at the time, they're like, "Oh, that must have meant, you need a shift in what track you're on in life." And I thought, fuck, that's true. It definitely wasn't a healthy direction that I was going on. And yeah, the story continues. Luckily, well, actually, unluckily in a way, my memory was deteriorating. 3 months later, it was worse, and I was really unconfident and struggling to speak with my own family members because I just forget basic words like t-shirt, bath, drink, and it really stumbles mid-sentence. And I promise this is going somewhere. So then one day, not doing much with my life, can't drink, drive, go to the gym, work, just feeling trapped in my body, aware that I'm not having memories, a really crazy experience. And so I thought, fuck it, I'm just going to rearrange my study because I'm doing nothing else with my days. Rearrange the study that I'd worked in for like a whole year. And then I went back to the kitchen, got my glass of water, I looked back on it and just felt shock, man. In that moment, could not remember what the room looked like 2 hours earlier. And the frustration and shame and just thinking, fuck, like I'm 21, by 25, by 30, my brain's gone. Like I'm going to be that dude on Fox News or people like that, where it's just like, oh, that wouldn't happen to me. and that's my fucking life. And yeah, it felt like my life was over before it truly began. In that moment, this sort of voice just speaks to me, and it was like this sense of knowing. And it just said, you know, you can go down this road that you're going down now, or you can realize or believe that your belief directs your biology. And that's all it said is your belief directs your biology. You either accept that or you can go down the path you're going down. And I had nowhere else to go. So I thought, okay, I picked up that one breadcrumb and absolutely committed. Yep, my belief directs my biology. So then the next thing it told me was, all right, go to the bathroom, look in the mirror and start seeing who it is you want to be. And I started looking in the mirror, and this voice, my intuition was just telling me, you're going to swap places with this person in the mirror. And, you know, it sounded crazy. Swap
You're gonna
places?
swap places with who?
My other self in the mirror.
With the self that you were sort of mentally creating.
Yeah, yeah. Like literally the other person in the mirror. In my mind, I just made up this story. There's a different Dom. He's in a parallel universe or world, like a mirrored world. Everything's the same, except he's funny, intelligent, wise, smart, athletic, energetic, great memory, all these different things.
Mhm.
And I went in there and I saw it with absolute certainty after about like 5-10 minutes that he was the embodiment of those things as well as everything else. And he had all those things that I thought I was missing. And when I got to the point that I was absolutely confident he had all those things, I decided, all right, well, it's time I'm going to swap. But there's one caveat. And the caveat is I'll never be able to prove that I didn't do it. Sure, I can't prove that it ever happened. But if it's a mirror world and in an instant I was going to swap, there would be no time delay because everything's mirrored. So everything would still look the same. There'd be no delay and I would never be able to prove that it didn't happen. So I'm speaking like a crazy person. Does it make sense?
I'm trying to. Uh, are you saying that basically, when you're telling yourself, "I've created this new version of me, and now I am him," there's no way of proving that you're not? So you
Yeah,
very
yeah. Like
well could be.
that. I am definitely the Dom who's missing those things. But in a moment when I switch, I won't know the moment I switch and I won't be able to prove that I never did it.
Okay.
I can't
Yeah.
prove that I did it, but I can't prove I never did it because everything will look the same.
Right. Which is true. Yeah.
It's like right now, it's like silly, but how can you prove right now that you didn't just bam appear right now in a USB with all fabricated memories of this conversation yesterday and your whole identity was just uploaded so you think that you have a history, whereas you just begun right now. You couldn't.
That's true. Yeah. I
Yeah,
could
it
not prove
sounds
it.
stupid conspiracy talk, and I definitely.
No. 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 But actually,
It's like,
it's quite fascinating.
well, essentially, yeah. How could you prove it? I
Okay.
just as a footnote, I do believe that I was here yesterday and in this form. Um, and there are other parts to me as well. So I'm standing in the mirror. I see this guy fully, I have complete clarity that he has those things. I wasn't trying to convince myself in that moment with mental willpower that I have those things. It was so easy to see that he had it. And then in that moment, I decided when I had that caveat, I wouldn't be able to prove it. Things just started going black. And it's just like my periphery started going black. And I decided as soon as that caveat, it like had this click in my mind, started going black, and I'm looking in this guy's eyes. And then out of nowhere, I just feel this pulse in my brain, just like this heartbeat, like boom, boom, just here. And this consciousness and memories, that's what it felt like this water coming through a clogged pipe, just bursting through. And man, I got like these shivers on my back, my neck, this memory and this mental clarity and certitude, this energy, and I felt back.
And you just felt like I am this person now. Or did
Yeah,
you say I fell
it's like a
back?
No, yeah, I felt back, or I felt that, uh, I guess back as in, who I used to feel like. But in that moment, um, yeah, there was no convincing. I just felt these things, and it corresponded to all these feelings in my body and this unquestionable experience, undeniably, this transformation. And there was still a lot of healing from that moment on, but that was the sort of upwards point. And what I wanted to share with that story was how irrational, pretty much most of those things sounded until they happened. And that really inspired me with, I would have never thought, hey, go to the mirror and do this. Like, that, what silly game are you playing? And it can still sound a bit silly. And yet I had this wondrous experience that unlocked a lot for me. And it was a total gateway into what I would dedicate my life to as well.
Wow. So that experience, like it lasted. The effects of what happened that day were
It was it was like the line in the sand moment. From that moment on, I didn't feel as if I'd lost myself and uncertain. It felt like I was me, and my future and my past were like this. And we're like, all right, we got this. We're going. And um yeah, there was still healing, and yet I had certainty in myself and my life.
wow. And that was how many how many years ago?
Probably about 10 years ago.
Okay. And now that you think about that experience and the transformation that occurred, what would you attribute all of that to? That change, like in that moment you changed. What would you attribute it to? Because usually people do a lot of work and therapy and coaching and stuff to make incremental or to make changes like week after week, and yet you had a change, you had a transformation in that moment. So
Yeah,
what do you
it's like I had a transformation, and then from that mountain, I was still taking steps. But it was a transformation of my relationship to myself, of my awareness. And then from there, then still just taking steps, each week, each day for sure. But what really opened up for me was how beautiful it is to stumble upon what's outside my scope of knowing. You can get that circle of what you know, what you don't know, what you don't know you don't know. It's just like this
yeah.
infinite blackness. And I, in that moment, felt so inspired. How can I just land upon that dark unknown of not knowing what I don't know? How do you even get to that experience? And that's where I feel intuition can really help.
Hmm.
And landing in those different areas, I find it expands my not only lens of what this experience and what life is, what it could be, and the more possibility that I experience and explore allows me to see greater possibility in other people as well.
And you would say that intuition is quite an important part of seeing that possibility.
Yeah, totally. Because how mentally are you going to try and get to what you know you don't know? Good luck.
Right, yeah, because it always, like when operating from logic, you're always basing yourself from something you know.
Yeah, you're still in the realm of what you know you don't know. Like that's your limit.
Right.
And it
Yeah.
may not, you still may stumble upon that without intuition. It can just happen. But yeah, I find intuition is a great bridge.
Right. Um, there's I feel like people these days in our society anyway, they don't operate mostly from intuition. Mostly, I would say we tend to operate from logic. So if there's someone who has been operating pretty much their entire lives from logic, how would you advise that they begin to connect more with their intuition, such that it's guiding their life a bit more and they can have these insights and yeah, this guidance that's not really available from logic alone?
Okay, get into your body. And hearing that can sound pretty cliche. Oh, does that mean I go and do breath work? Does that mean I need to go and do like ecstatic dancing and stuff like that? That's not what I mean. What I mean, get into your body, is it's like harmonizing your left and right hemispheres of the brain. And the ancients had, across many different cultures, they had, each culture had a word for this, where you harmonize, balance out your left and right brain, and then you get into your heart brain. And so when I think about that, it's like balancing out the analytical part and then balancing out just the feeling part. And so inside, I imagine there's like a little Dom, and this Dom is just like so much feeling. And it's like he's just got juice and he's just pouring this juice everywhere. And I'm thinking, fuck, it's so messy, all that juice, right? And so then my analytical brain is like, all right, I need to go and collect cups, because Dom doesn't have cups. He's just throwing juice everywhere. I don't want to go clean it up. I want to deal with it. It's messy. It's sticky. And that's what, like, the feeling, when there's too much feeling, it's just like juice going everywhere. But then the analytical part is like, all right, I'm going to go then in this external world and just collect cups, lots and lots of cups, because then he'll never have that again. So I go in and I collect cups. I collect the most cups out of everyone I know, and I'm looking at other people's cups and trying to get more than them. And then I've got this big castle of cups, but then it still feels empty, and all those cups are empty. And so I collect more, and then I still feel empty, collect more until I've really shown myself I've collected a fucking lot of cups. Why am I still feeling empty? And if anything, less inspired now, because now I don't even have the drive to collect more. But what I've found is when you bring the messy juice and the cup together, suddenly the juice goes in the cup, and I'm really appreciative of the juice. And the juice can be really appreciative of having that structure to be appreciated, and then be completely enjoyed and have this relationship with it. And so that's where I imagine the juice by itself is this sticky and messiness. The cups by themselves are just empty and overstructured. When you're bringing the structure and that juice together, suddenly it's this beautiful harmonizing relationship where then I can actually have and enjoy the purpose of the juice. So if I think that someone is in too much feeling and overdoing it, then they need a bit of structured thinking. They need some cups. If someone is too much analytical and they're trying to just go further into analytical, and it's like just thought spirals to the next, but you never fully complete. It's just like, yes, it is quick dopamine, but then it just feels empty and you get another cup. So then if someone's too much in their cupness, then they need to go in and connect with what felt like that messiness, but take the structure and the cupness. So cupness, that's a new word now. So taking those cups, we should have a live tally of how many times if I say the word cup. I'm going to have to mix this up. So bringing those two things together, one of the ways that can look like is truly sitting down. And I like to think, again, like of little Dom, how's he feeling? So if you want to do it through what people could call inner child, it's really just connecting in and being present with my body. I can do that by slowing my breath down and feeling how my body feels. I can imagine a little Dom and imagine that fear and guilt and shame is just a little scared child. And so I can imagine going and holding his hand and checking in on him. How does he feel? And listening. Me listening is like being the cup, allowing stuff to be poured into it. So just by me holding space and listening, isn't that what a cup does? It just holds space. But
Yeah.
it's only meaningful holding space when it's got the thing that it's holding space for. Otherwise, it's just emptiness. So I would bring structured thinking. That's just like a metaphor to hopefully that people can remember then what we're going to talk about with this, but bringing some structured thinking. And so that can be reasoning in terms of, um, well, I guess that's if we're balancing out the feeling, but you asked if people are over analytical. Yeah.
Mm.
Do things just for the sheer enjoyment. If they're over analytical, likely there's a lot of guilt and shame. And that guilt and shame is repressing and suppressing their emotional side. So go and do something merely for the sake of guilty pleasure. Think about what you would do when you would just, when you're a little kid and time would fly by and you would just create and dream without thinking whether you couldn't or can't. Like, did you ever feel like you could just build a plane and you took it so seriously? Like, oh, I'm going to build a plane this afternoon and then I'll probably fly it tomorrow. You didn't rush in and say, you're not going to be able to fly a plane. You don't know how to pilot it. You don't know how aerodynamics works. You're not going to be able to build a plane. You just followed it. So I would look back on what were those moments where you were just timeless and creative as a kid, and what were the elements of it? Try and connect into that. And how can you express some of that in your big, serious adult form?
Hmm. So you're saying that just doing things just to do them because you enjoy doing them would help you to connect more with your emotional side.
Yeah, because people can be like, that's a waste of time, you know,
Right.
but the voice of them saying that is the same voice that's trapping them right now. Because a part of that's true. Yeah, sure. The most like greatest use of their time is going to be something they feel really connected and driven and inspired by, and then they feel great doing that. But if their relationship to that kid with the juice going everywhere is one of, you're fucking messy, get out of here. You should be clean. You should be doing it properly. You shouldn't be acting like that. And they don't want to get near it. Then that relationship, yes, they can be inspired and driven at times. But then as soon as some feeling comes or something triggers them or something happens in their life that they don't then have the relationship with those feelings to be able to hold it and feel it, it's going to totally fuck them up. And then they're going to try and beat themselves up to get back onto this path. But hating yourself to get back to your inspired path is, man, that's a tricky road. So I'm more suggesting just like you would build a relationship with plants by looking at them, seeing how much sunshine, water, and the effects that has, and just appreciating that, doing that with your feelings. And the way to then, like you can see the plants, the way to then see the emotions, go do things. And one of the sort of license to go do those things is what would just be a guilty pleasure. And that usually brings out, oh, wow, this is actually really fun. Or you could be sitting there going, I'm wasting time, wasting time. But choose something that, try and sit through it and allow yourself to actually receive it. And you may get closer to end up following what feels really great to you. And it may lead somewhere that doesn't logically make sense that you could have planned beforehand. But I find it's wise to build a relationship with both sides, the feeling and the intellect, not only one side where it actually ends up trapping you.
Right. Yeah. And trapping you into a certain way of operating, which is not necessarily the way you want to operate, meaning just logic and doing this because then it will lead to that, which will lead to that. And ultimately, yeah, ultimately, I think we're probably just here to enjoy ourselves. So if we're always operating and doing things like, oh, I'm going to do this podcast because then it will lead to this, and then that will lead to that, and that will lead to that, then your whole everything you do relies upon a series of things going as you plan, which they often don't. Whereas if you're saying like, yeah, I just feel like doing this because I like it, then you've already won, no matter what happens after.
Yeah, it's like going on a journey with your friends. You're aiming for the destination and you have your intention for what you'd love to experience. And we know that it's the journey that really counts. That's where your experience is going to lie. you're going to get to the destination, and perhaps that'll be an experience in itself, but the majority of your experience is that journey. And doing it with friends where you can laugh along the way really colors it. And so why is it any different with yourself? That's the person you're with 24/7.
Yeah. I'd love to get into, you started talking about basically cultivating your relationship with yourself. And you mentioned just doing things that you want. And you said connecting with those feelings, whatever it may be, like shame or something. But I'd love to get into, yeah, what to you, what does it mean to cultivate your relationship with yourself, and why as human beings would it be important for us to do so?
Beautiful questions. So throughout my 20s, I had a lot of pressure on myself. My original pressure was, if I'm not a millionaire by 21, I suck. Like, I've obviously missed the boat. Got to 21, had $2 in my bank account and a brain injury. So I was pretty far off. Going up through the 20s, then when I'm getting to 25, I think, all right, I really have to go somewhere. And I was starting to do some workshops, and I was doing some overseas as well. And I was starting to build that up. And then I had a moment that came crumbling down. And so then ended up forming a business with my friend, and we'd worked on that for a number of years, but then had the next sort of line of 30. I'm 31 now. And at 30, in my mid 20s, had a lot of pressure of what I thought I needed to be and have, and a sense of security. And if I didn't have that, then I was even further off, and I just have to come to terms with, maybe you're just not going to be who you want to be and achieve what you want to achieve. So aging towards 30 from 25 onwards was pretty scary. I got to 28, and pretty much all my investments, business, this is during COVID, towards the end of it, and everything was crashing. So was pretty much every asset in my life, going into the negatives, not zero. Going broke would be great. I was going into the negatives. And then I was thinking, okay, this is like the opposite direction. I then, in my mind or in my body, felt when it was at its worst, I actually just want to go walking. And it looked like, to a lot of people, just pure escapism. But it just burned in my heart that that was exactly what was right for me. And I didn't know how to explain it to anyone, because it looked like I was abandoning the business, abandoning this stuff. And it looked like that. And for sure, maybe there's elements of that. But deep in my heart, I just knew it was what I was meant to do. And I deliberated with it for months. It was agonizing, thinking, how can I'm going to have to just take on the role of this person who is the biggest piece of shit, abandoning everything and going to Europe in the toughest time just to walk around. Luckily, my family around me saw how dark life was really feeling for me. And they're like, you got to go out. You got to go do this. And I told you I was in the negative. So money was really difficult. Luckily, they got together and got me a plane ticket to get over there. Got the plane ticket, went over there. And within a few days, my intuition just told me, go and do the Camino de Santiago and just start walking. And I went there. And on the first day, I think I cried 3 times, just burst out into tears, because I had just given myself, I was doing something purely for no other reason, not for anyone else, just purely because it felt right and for me. And it wasn't just something small like, oh, I'm just ordering takeaway tonight. That's just for me. Like, this was truly something that felt, yes, it can be inconvenient to everyone else that can do all this, but I'm just putting what was in my heart first. And in that moment, there was a part inside of me that was just like, thank you, Dom. Thank you so much. Like, you're the coolest to going and doing this experience. As in, just for me, the self inside me felt just safe and so happy that Dom was leading himself on this experience. And so I did that for a month. After that, I came back and I was working with this coach. And a few months after that, I can say that was at 29. It was the first time in my life that I truly loved myself. that I fell in love with myself. It wasn't like this conditional love of, yeah, you know, you're great and all, but you better achieve what you're going to achieve. And why can't you do this? And you should do that. It just like those things could still fluctuate, but then there was this base level line of, I absolutely love you. And you don't ever have to question that part again. There can still be frustrations, but I love you just the same as someone has that certainty with their own children or their dog or their partner or their best friends. I wanted that for myself. And yeah, that was cultivating on this walk. It was some of the most abundant and rich and safe and capable I've ever felt in my life. And all I had was a backpack and 2 t-shirts and next to no money. Yeah, it was some of the wealthiest I've ever felt. Maybe that's because I didn't desire anything else, but I just felt so connected, and that felt like I was here in myself. I didn't want to be outside of myself, didn't want to be anyone else. I felt safe here. And that brings a certain warmth. It's like being able to have your own flint and wood, be able to light your own fire. Mm. And you can feel that warmth yourself, and that's a warmth you get to bring to other people too. And I really hope people get to have that warmth, and that fire creates a sense of warmth and safety. And then they also just get to look up at the stars and think about how wonderful this is. And sure, there's the experiences of life and the tough times and everything, but there is a home that you always are, that I'm always at, that a part of me has never left home, and I get to feel that feeling. I think, or I feel, and I truly know in myself that that is a major part of my journey while being alive, to be able to experience that. And then from what happens there, yeah, I think it's truly important.
And you're saying it started from the walk on Camino de Santiago on that.
Yeah, it started because I did what was looked so inconvenient to everyone else, and what I thought I'd be judged, and I felt shame of even pursuing that. And in at the peak of that shame and judgment, I went and did it, and that just created a deep, deep, deep trust. You know, I think a lot of in my life, I'd really wanted to become good at, I guess, appeasing or being able to please people so I could get them to be happy with the things that I want to do. You know, it's like I'm creating the safety, and it's all this effort and energy and work and manipulation just so that I can feel safe to do the thing that I feel a little bit shameful or guilty or scared of or fearful of the judgment of others. So like trying to control the conditions around me so that I can be most safe to just do this. And in that moment, it's just like, all right, I'm done with all this around me. I'm just going to do this. And fuck, that felt powerful.
Right. So it was a somewhat of a catalyst for where you later said you arrived at after some coaching, where, as you said, you have this foundation of just, I love who I am. I love myself, regardless of accomplishment or failure or success. There's a stable base of self-love.
Yeah, yeah. Like with your own family, you can think, fuck you, or like, God, you're pissing me off, or you look in their face and your beady little fucking face, like it's pissing me off. But you know you still love them. And that's something that's unquestionable. Maybe. I'm guessing for most people, they can feel that, you know, their own dog or children could piss them off, but they still love them. And that's a part that is just absolutely there. So that was what I wanted to experience that safety within myself. I didn't want to have to go find home somewhere else. And part of me still does that, you know, travels the world. Oh, where will home be? Where will I settle? And just more and more, it helps me appreciate the home that I'm cultivating in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be I think this is something that pretty much everyone is looking for, yet not everyone knows they're looking for it. And so often we're looking for precisely that, except maybe we don't know we can have it, or we don't know that's what we truly want deep down. And we end up pursuing a myriad of different things, whether it's a career path or I just feel like, yeah, ultimately we just want to feel like loved, and we want to feel like to have that safety, that emotional safety within oneself that's independent of others. And yet when we go out looking for it, most of the time it is highly dependent on others. It's highly dependent on other people's validation and other people's opinion, whether they accept what you're doing, whether, and it's very fragile to pursue it in that way. Whereas when you construct it within yourself, it's it's completely independent, and so you're free to live the way that you truly want.
Yeah,
So
it's I was working um I was working on myself the other day going, where am I controlling in relationships? And I thought that can be a part that can really get in the way. So I started looking into that shadow in myself. And when I was looking through it, why I do it, what I'm getting out of it, where I do it, um, I then started looking at the what's it trying to save me from? And I noticed when I put my worth, let's say I put something super valuable, like a golden nugget, and I put that in your hands, Orlando, and then you're just holding it in your hand and it's super precious to me. And you're like moving it around or you throw it up and I'm looking at it and I'm trying to listen to you speak. I'm just looking at how you're holding this. Then you put it in your pocket and then I'm trying to think, where is he hiding it? Where's it going? And then maybe you throw it and you nearly drop it and think, fuck, 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 fuck. And then maybe put it in your backpack and you're like, oh, I just left it at home. And I'm thinking, is it locked? Is it this? And I'm freaking out. And I realized when I put what is so valuable to me in your hands, I'm then going to try and control your every move and what you do and don't do so that that gold thing is protected. And I noticed that, well, stop putting it in Orlando's hands. And it doesn't mean I need to go and grab it back from you. I just got to realize I just got to not put it in there. The moment I don't put it in there, it's in my hand. So there's nothing that I have to go back and undo. And that was in terms of speaking to what you were just talking about, that it's something that truly everyone wants. That's like a little imagery that I have in my hand because we're wanting to get all this gold from other people. That's what would feel safe. You've got it, I want it. And the moment that I realized that I'd put it in your hands and now I'm trying to get it back without realizing that I put it there, creates a bit of drama
yeah, and fear.
and fear.
Yeah, because you won your nugget. So if someone's listening and they're like, yeah, I that sounds great. Like I want to keep my nugget, in my hand. So when I'm with people, I'm hanging out. I got my nugget in my hand. I'm happy. They can do what they want, but I got my nugget here safe. If someone's listening right now and wants that, and they recognize, they're like, yeah, that's true. I've totally been giving my nuggets away, and I want to keep it. I want to keep it for myself. How, practically speaking, how can we begin to transition into that way of living?
Yeah. Yeah. It's recognizing what you said, recognizing first that you want the nugget. And it's recognizing that When you're in the supermarket at the Gold Nugget supermarket and you don't have it, you're wanting all of it. And you'll take you'll take bronze nuggets thinking it's gold. You know, you'll take a plastic yellow thing, doesn't even look like a nugget, but in the moment that you're really starving for it, it looks like a nugget. And so it's recognizing, okay, I want to be walking through the supermarket, not hungry, not for this hungry love. So then the practical part is recognizing, okay, where am I putting that in someone else's hands? And that can show up in fear of loss. What connections am I fear of losing? Where am I speaking to people from an energy of just scared that I'll lose them? Where am I speaking? Yeah, from essentially that energy of fear, knowing that that'll come back to some sort of sense of loss. So then there's two practical things. One of the practical things, I like to have a balance. So one of them's like the thought, the other one's like a feeling sense. The feeling sense, I'll start with that, is what am I wanting from this person that I'm afraid they won't give me? What is it that I'm wanting from this person? Oh, I'm wanting them to put me first, or I'm wanting them to give me safety, or I'm wanting them to, put my dreams first, or validation. And then just think, where am I not giving that to myself?
Mm.
That's it. Because there is a fountain of juice in here, and I'm holding my cup in their fountain.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't work, because only their juice can truly fill their cup. My cup is truly just for my juice. So it's a reflection of that. So I just think, where am I not giving that to myself? And find out where I'm not giving it. And then from there, recognize, how can I give that to myself? And then just feel that and sit there and feel it. Don't try and change it. The analytical part. What am I afraid that I don't have? Oh, I don't have security, or I don't have freedom, or I don't have, I won't have as many friends if I don't keep this person in my life, or I won't get affection. Whatever I think that I'm having a sense of loss about. And then I would look, like the law of conservation, there's no creation or destruction of energy. It's just changing forms. So I would find, where do you have those things in a different form? And see where I have all those things in my life. Where is the security in my life? Where do I already have it? Where do I already have the freedom? Where do I already have the affection that I think? Because in the moment that I'm desiring it or fearing that I'm going to lose it, I think that I don't have it. So where do I have it? I only think I don't have it because I'm looking at it and associating it with a particular form and thinking I need to get that form. So if I don't have that form, then it looks empty. But I need to broaden my horizon of awareness and allow myself to see, knowing it's in a different form, and find where are the other forms. And it'll be all little pieces over here. And then I get all those pieces together and I have the certainty, oh, I do have safety. It's in a different form. Find out how this form's truly serving me. Find out how this only form over here wouldn't be serving me. It does both. Once I realize that I have it, now I'm not in that hungry supermarket mode. Now I can actually speak to this person without having this underlying motive that they need to be someone or something for me. Because they're more than this form, by the way. They're a whole full human being. I'm actually degrading them to just being that little part for me, which will not be fulfilling. It won't be fulfilling as long as I think that it's locked to a specific form and it's outside of me. It's just going to be a temporary feeling. It will not last.
So, are you saying, if we want to have truly fulfilling relationships, then first recognize the most important things we want from our relationships and identify where we have them independent of external relationships? And then you're saying, if we have that recognition, be like, oh yeah, all of these things, the most important things I want in my external relationships, I have them already. Without them, then when
Yeah,
we come into our relationships, we're not associating this individual with the form of the thing that we're trying to get from them. We're just seeing them as an individual.
yeah. You're seeing them as an individual and you're finding where you have, because they will be part of that form the moment you're with them. But where did you have it before them? That would be where
Mhm.
I would go looking. So you can see, actually, you had it all along, which just gives you trust, whether they're in your life or not in your life. It's there. It doesn't go away. It's not something that needs to be gained. And that can seem a bit crazy because life can truly feel like you did not have those things. Yes, you experience not having that particular form, but that's just where your conscious awareness is. It's like, I'm looking here and I can't see it. The form's not there. That's true. But you got to look around and see that that energy is there in a different form, and it was there, and it's in your unconscious. You can find it.
And why is it so transformational to actually identify it? Because it's always been in our life. Like, let's say person A is seemingly providing a certain thing that's important to us, and then person A leaves our life and we think, oh no, this is a terrible thing. That thing I was getting from person A, I no longer have in my life anymore. And you're saying, well, before person A was in your life, you had it, then person A provided it in their specific form, and now person A is no longer in your life, but that thing's still there. So how why is it so transformational to actually identify it? Because it's there whether you're aware of it or
It
not.
takes you out of just your intellectual reckoning and reasoning of what life is. So I was reading this article yesterday that put it beautifully. It was talking about how scientists are really focused on what creates life forms. And we're just constantly analyzing and digging deeper what creates these life forms. And then the question of the mystics and poets and philosophers and true priests over time has been, well, what created life itself? And that's something that is kept within the knowledge of God, Allah, universe, whatever you want to call it, some grand awareness. And so then it's kind of talking about how the most scientists can do is destroy forms or create forms, but destroying life. Anyone can go up and kill a rabbit or pull some weeds or grass or whatever and kill the life. And that's what a worm can do as well. That's what an insect can do. That's what bacteria can do. And so in that sense, the worm and the scientists can both kill life, not really do much more. Life itself. Whereas life itself is always existing. And because when you kill a form of something, the energy just goes to somewhere else and gets expressed in another way. You can't kill the power of life itself, maybe just the form. And so when you see where things die and how that then energy changes to something, you're almost seeing is death and birth cycle, death and birth cycle. And just, it's kind of like seeing beyond that, what's the golden thread? What's just the life that is ever present? And when you have that glimpse and experience and awareness in that moment of life being ever present, you're transcending in that moment the fear of death. When you're transcending the moment of the fear of death, you're transcending your fear and your identity to just being, this is all I am, this is who I am, I'm going to age, grow, and then die. There's something special that emerges in that realization, a certain connectedness that is just beyond survival. And that's beautiful. And in that, there's a certain safety and wholeness that shows beyond just what you usually perceive in life. And that can build a sense of trust that, wow, there is so much more to this life and so much more going on. And I am hugged by the power of life itself, and it's ever present. And that's a particular safety net, a warm safety net that we all get to have. And in those moments, when you see how it's transformed, you're not on a trap door which could just open at any time. You start to realize I'm hugged by this magnificence.
I'm hugged essentially by everything that I want.
Yeah, it's all there.
Which is totally not the way that most of us are living in our perception. If you ask a random person on the street, like, hey, would you say that you have everything that you want? I think it would be rare, the individual who says, yes, actually, I'm being hugged by divine perfection at all times.
I mean, God, there's probably only a few people who have ever had that realization daily, and they create religions about them.
Right. What would you say is, if you had to go into happiness and basically give your thoughts on happiness, what would you say is like the key? What are the key things for us to become happier in our lives?
So when I think of happiness, I think of uh, what do people truly love to experience, and how do they express love, and what makes them feel alive and connected. And I guess that sense of oneness, when someone is so in the zone, they don't see separation between themselves and others. They're just there, and they're just absorbed in that thing. And I think that's a feeling that people truly strive for. And then we can get these moments of like happiness, and maybe that can come from drinking or things you can buy and eat. And sometimes they're truly forms of presence, but otherwise it's just like a fabricated synthetic form of happiness, where it's just like this sort of moment where it just further associates, oh, my wholeness requires some external part. And it's like, I need to gain this in my life to be whole. Whereas when I'm doing something where I feel timelessness in, and I feel connected and absorbed or present in it, it's this like beauty that emerges outwards. And I don't see this separation of self and other. And do you know what I mean? So
Hmm.
then with that sort of version of happiness, I think it's truly following what's in your heart. So then following what's in your heart can seem kind of vague. So then we can then use our mind to sort of approximate things that lead to those things. And those approximations that give us the best probability of being in our heart is just knowing what's truly important to me, or what's truly important to you. And a lot of the time when people think about what's truly important, they can think, what are their values? And when people think of what their values are, a lot of the stuff they say is just a load of shit. And, how often have in my life, when I remember growing up and people were like, oh, choose your values. And I got a list of like 200 words, and it's like joy, integrity, loyalty, connection, and these things. And I'm just circling what I think, yeah, that is important to me, but what the fuck is that, man? That's not like a value. Oh, go out and spend your whole day and go do the integrity thing for the next 2 hours. And, is that what just brings me the most joy? I'm waking up. Can't wait to do loyalty today. Like, I'm so excited. So I like to ask to truly find what's important to them, and not what's important to their family or their culture or the people around them, or what they think they need to find important to then have a more successful life. But what is naturally important? I like to think people, instruments, everyone's a different instrument slightly, and they're tuned differently, maybe slightly different scales. And then they've got a piece of music for them to play in this lifetime. And to me, there's nothing more beautiful than just seeing someone play the piece of music they were meant to play, their song. And that's something that I want to do in my life too. And so to find essentially my song, and the song that is for me, and why my instrument is the exact instrument that is perfected or built specifically for this song, I ask a series of questions to find out what are the values, because the values will be there, but I'm mentally trying to construct what they should and shouldn't be. So again, it's like relaxing and coming back here, coming back home and seeing what's there. So how do I find out what's back home? Well, consciously I'm trying to do all these things, but our conscious mind, holds a few bits of information moment to moment, but our unconscious is pretty much absorbing and thinking and processing so much more, 99.9% of all of it. So then I would probably be doing it there. So I can ask people, if I were to follow you with a drone like this and just follow you 24/7, what would I see you do? And for a lot of people, they'd do similar stuff. They'd still wake up, they'd still eat, a couple of times, 3 times a day, more. They'd go to sleep, or maybe they go to work. So a lot of people could seem like they're doing the same thing, but they're doing it for completely different reasons. So I want to get a catalog of pretty much 24-hour calendar schedule. And if I'm with a drone, what are you doing? Moment to moment, what are you doing? And we'll see that there are some similar things. Then we'll go to those things. Why are you doing them? A lot of people open up their phone, scroll Instagram, not realizing, they could be thinking I'm self-sabotaging, I'm wasting my time, blah, blah, blah. That they're following their values. People are doing it for different reasons. Someone's doing it because they're treating it like a slot machine and they're hoping to land on something funny that then they can share with their friends. Or they're hoping to find something funny, entertaining to connect with themselves. Or they're hoping to find some girl or guy that then they can chat to. And that's their sort of top of the mountain that they're aiming for. And they're hoping to land upon that. So playing game probability. Some people do it because they're hoping to find something on health or personal development or something that teaches them something. And the things that they want to learn will be a part of their values. So going through everything of the day that seems like it doesn't make sense why they do it and finding out what are the common drivers of all these things. Like for myself, I love exploring, I love relationships, I love learning, I love health. And, they're major, major drivers and my health will be different to someone else's version of health, by the way.
Mhm.
But pretty much all my doings and actions are directed primarily by those things. So finding out your values then allows you to consciously experiencing them, even though you'll still be doing it, to consciously experiencing them. And when you're consciously experiencing them and dedicating time to it, it then increases your ability to then be doing the things or to land upon situations where you experience that timelessness with and that just absorbedness. And that gives then the greatest possibility of experiencing that feeling of oneness and essentially that true desirable happiness that people really want to experience. Something, because in those moments, it's usually when you're living your values, you're also expressing your energy in a way which is most meaningful to you. You're sharing that with the world. You're contributing and sharing. And that is something that's truly meaningful. And I think deep down, everyone wants to share what's inside of them in a way that's meaningful. And
Totally.
that'll bring the happiness that I think that they truly want.
Right. So essentially it's about alignment.
That is, yeah, you've summed it all up with that one word.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So basically we all, because there are some people who seem happy and there are some people who just don't seem happy. And I can say this from experience that like in the past, I'm becoming happier and happier now. And in the past I was not happy at all. And I kind of thought it wasn't really available to me. And I kind of thought, well, I don't know if I can be happy. And what you're saying sounds like, and it confirms my experience as well very much, that happiness is not like something that life is producing babies and is like, this will be a happy one, unhappy, unhappy, happy, unhappy, and then that's your destiny. It's like happiness is something that it's kind of like balancing the equation of you. And there is you and there is a reflection of you, and are you being that reflection? Are you in alignment with yourself? And if you are, it's like, well, you will be rewarded, or you'll have that confirmation through something we like to call happiness. And all happiness is just you're being who you are. You're aligned with who you are. You're doing the things that are your actions. And I'd also like to say this because you mentioned values, which are like key to all of this, and some people might be confused by that word. I've been confused by it in the past because when I initially heard it, I thought of the things that you initially mentioned, like loyalty and integrity, which don't really mean too much. Like you said, like I'm gonna have a day full of loyalty, and what you were saying after sounded more like these are the activities, the things that you love doing, like a field of study. It could be physics, or it could be economics, it could be psychology and understanding the human mind, or it could be running, like someone could fucking love running, or reading or writing. And yeah, so I just wanted to say that um, by values, just to clarify that these are things that you can do or read about, rather than uh, things like honesty and stuff. So
Mm.
yeah, essentially just aligning yourself with who you are by doing the things that you love to do. And to tie it into what we were talking about earlier, uh, I suppose the more we're connected with our intuition, the more we will naturally be aligned with who we are, right?
I believe so.
And it would be more our logic that gets in the way of us doing those things that are truly aligned
Yeah,
with who we
because
are.
the intuition is just bypassing the judgment. It's just it just is. I'm not arriving there because of judgment and analysis, which can really skew things up. Like when you're talking about values being activities and things you can read about, write about, and do, it's like we live in a world where this is a physical plane, and in this physical plane, expressing ourselves, how to express. And you and I both want to not only be loved for who we are, but I would love to love who I am. That's something I want, that experience. And to be able to do that for other people and have experience of it, leading with that. And so I think, okay, well, if I want to express those things, the beautiful thing about that is the false sort of values is like what I think I will be a better person by doing, and then more loved by other people. And that's why I think the pressure of those values is just not your true values. That's all about getting love. That's distorting love. But I think true love is just something that is just emanating. It's there and it feels meaningful to express it. So, in terms of loyalty and integrity, people are loyal to their real values. People are disloyal to things that they don't value. People are more integral in their higher values and less integral in their lower ones. You can't depend on them. They don't value it and it's not as meaningful to them. And if it's higher value to you, you're going to see them as less integrity to you, just because they're integral to their highest, loyal and integral and disciplined in their highest values, and you are in your highest ones. So, because think about it, discipline really is when you love something. Like imagine some discipline who's like carving out a statue, and someone could look at the meticulous just precision that they're carving the statue with and the hours they're putting, and they're really, perhaps they're actually not trying to be disciplined and waking up at 4 a.m. having a cold bath before they start shaping this statue. Perhaps they just have a vision, just truly love this statue, and that's their way of expressing their love. And so finding the ways of expressing your love coincide with those values that you were talking about. And that's where you're going to be more disciplined. So if someone's really beating themselves up and feeling, I'm not disciplined, I'm fucking all over the place, I should be this, should be that, a great place to start is finding out what your real values are, and they will already be there. But all the judgments of yourself and others is just skewing and clouding your vision and conscious connection with it.
Yeah, so even if you're lucky enough to actually have this in your awareness of, oh, I might be living according to other people's values. I might be doing things that I don't truly want to do. You're not out of the woods yet, because you will still feel pressured to do those things. Like university students would probably be a good example. So many people start university and feel pressured to continue. Like I met someone. I did 1 year of psychology at the University of Amsterdam, and after that year, I dropped out. And my friends at the time thought I was crazy, and were like, why you just like keep going? Don't drop out. Basically, dropping out is a bad thing and is giving up. And I did, because I didn't feel like being there anymore. I didn't want to do it, and I was just continuing because I was afraid and thinking, well, I don't know what I'll do if I drop out. I know I don't want to be here, but if I drop out, I don't know what I'll do. And so that was driving me. And I was lucky enough to uh, to have someone point that out to me. And I was like, oh yeah, that's true. I don't want to be here. And actually, a month ago or something, I met someone who was in that same program and was just about to graduate, or had just graduated, was pretty much at the end. And I said to her, like, yeah, congratulations, and it kind of came up. She was like, yeah, I didn't really want to finish, to be honest. Like, I just forced myself to finish. And so even, yeah, a lot of the times we're just doing things because we feel pressured. And I feel very lucky because someone pointed this out to me, someone I trusted, and I had that awareness of like, oh yeah, I know I don't want to do this, but we don't always have that. And often it's just us in our thoughts and thinking, I'm not enjoying this study, or maybe I'm not enjoying this job. And yeah, what's how do we get out of that? How do we trust ourselves enough and give ourselves permission to do what is judged by others, what is not understood by others, but just happens to align with what we truly want?
Well, when you did it, how did you do it?
Yeah, so someone was actually, I was very lucky, because usually people tend to give advice and they're like, you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm enjoying my study, and they're like, well, just finish it because you have 2 more years. And I was very lucky because this individual was asking me questions and was just like, oh, so well, how do you feel when you're doing your study? And I was like, oh, I don't really want to do it. And through asking me the questions, it was made apparent that I don't actually like this study, uh, and I'm forcing myself to do it. So it was through questioning, facilitated by someone else, and then having the awareness of, I don't want to be doing this. I am doing this because of fear. And then when I had that awareness, I then had a choice. Like, do I want to continue the study with the awareness that I'm only doing this because I'm scared of the unknown? Or do I want to honor how I actually feel, which is, I don't want to do this, and step into the unknown, and then just not do that, and see what life has in store for me besides this thing that I clearly don't want to do.
Okay. I think a major part of what you just said is someone was asking you questions, and then you're essentially then asking yourself that question, or just you're giving back what comes out or what comes inside. And I think that that is a really, really key part that is often totally misunderstood. There's a lot of talking to ourselves, not curiously asking ourselves and allowing the answer to come, and then asking another question. Like, there's a lot of affirmations and willpower and telling myself what I should or shouldn't feel. And these are just, that's like a one-way conversation. But thankfully, you had someone who was asking the question, and then you allowed and held space for what would emerge. And I think that that's really important to sit down and ask myself, literally, how am I feeling? Because sometimes I don't even know, man. I don't like someone asks you, how are you feeling? And I'm thinking, I'll have to get back to you on that. And then I can just take some moment and literally ask myself, how am I feeling? And then see what comes up and hold space for that and go, oh, that's how you're feeling. How long you been feeling that for? And see what my body tells me. And asking myself the questions, because everything that person asked you, that was already inside you. It just didn't have a microphone put to it so you could hear it. And thankfully, that person helped hold a microphone for what was inside, because it was like so down here whispering that we can't even hear it. We're just speaking over it. Um, I think that's a major part. Would you say that that was pretty helpful when that person was asking you questions and they weren't necessarily just trying to overly give advice?
I think it was key. Yeah. I don't know what would have happened if this individual had responded in the same way most of us tend to respond in that situation, which is try and help by give advice. Um, I don't think I would have had that awareness, no. So I might have still been in the psychology program, forcing myself to do it. Yeah.
Well, and then the other part, that's like the sort of getting in touch with your body, asking yourself those questions or someone asking you that. And then as they're coming up, you're acknowledging them. And because it's your body, you're acknowledging it, you then get the blessings of being acknowledged, because you're the one acknowledging and also being acknowledged. So you get that experience. And then from that, it can be helpful if there's like mentally things like, oh, but if I don't do this, my career's fucked. Or, if I don't do this, this will happen and I'm totally fucked. Well, you can then just balance that out by asking, well, how's your career going to be totally fucked if you continue this? If you
Mm.
continue this, oh, well, then I'm going to be doing something and feeling like I do the past week for the next 30 years. And that now feels more unsafe than the safety of the certainty of having a career. Like now I would actually rather be doing pretty much nothing than that. And you start to realize, okay, well, it's not all propped up what it is. Like it's not as good as I was making it out to be. And then it could be like, oh, well, if I leave, I'm going to have no options. I will not be doing anything with my life. And you said just before, well, I get to see what life unfolds. And what's the benefit of being able to build the skill of trusting and meeting life as it unfolds? It brings adaptability, thinking on my feet. It brings like a leader. It brings someone that will be able to deal with uncertainty. Oh, that's someone that I want to be, not only in a business, but to my friends, to my family, to my children. So I get to go and practice showing up as that person, and life is going to be giving all the content and data, and I just get the opportunity to show up to it, and that builds those parts and skills that is important in the leader and the person I want to be in. So now you're actually building your future. And when you start to realize that this wasn't just the certain future and this was like the destruction of your future, that this can also be the destruction of your future, going to the psychology and going to somewhere where it looks like you're going nowhere is actually building a certain future in who you're going to be. It can kind of give a bit more stability going, all right, well, what choice would I like to make when there's going to be positive and negatives to both?
Hmm. Yeah, it feels very free when you say that. That the impression I have is like there's just a lot of freedom because we tend to think of it as there's the right decision and the wrong decision, and I hope I make the right decision, and then it leads me to where I want to go. And you're saying, yeah, whether essentially you're saying if I would have stayed in psychology or left, there would have been just as many benefits as drawbacks anyway. Like there would have been benefits to me doing that which I didn't want to do, even if even if I didn't want to do it, it would not have necessarily been the wrong decision either.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. And there's wisdom to, that person who may have not enjoyed psychology, but deep down they could know it's the right thing to do. And so they sort of have to force themselves a little bit. That still has a place in life at
You mean
times.
someone who doesn't enjoy it but thinks it's the right thing for me?
Deep down knows it's the right thing for them.
Right. Well, would you say that something can be right for you if you don't enjoy it?
Yeah, things can still be right because you may not be enjoying it in the moment because you're just perceiving it in a certain way. Like I've felt very uncomfortable in certain moments that I've known this still feels right.
Right. Fair. Well, for me, it didn't feel right.
Yeah, exactly. And that's deep down how it felt for you. Yeah. But that's what I mean by building the relationship because with those feelings and understanding what the language of yourself is trying to communicate to you because it's like it can feel not right, and that is exactly this voice screaming to you, dude, this is not right for you. And then there can be the sensation of discomfort and then feeling like, okay, this is, it's not enjoyable in the moment, but deep down it can feel right. And when you connect to that, it will then change and influence the sort of experience you're having.
Hmm. When you connect to the feeling that this is not right.
Yeah, the true intention, because the thing is I don't, for instance, you had in your mind at that time, perhaps, do university or don't do university. Was that it? Or was it do university or do a different course? What were
No,
like
no,
the options?
exactly. It was the former. It was do university or do something else, and I have no idea what. So
Okay, great.
leave. And
This is sort of my rule of thumb is when there's black and white options, you're just being emotional. There is a magical third option in the middle that you truly want that is just totally covered up and clouded by essentially fear, guilt, and shame. Either fear that that's not something that's possible, or guilt and shame that, oh, who am I to be able to have that? Like, I can't just get that. That's not possible. Or I'm not worthy of that unconsciously. That would just be too fucked. So I think there's that magical third option. And the magical third option could be I want to impact the field of psychology or explore the mind and the wondrous things of this world and not in this university class, not a sort of one or the other. You still may want to do things that are very similar to a psychologist.
Mhm.
And so it's sort of like this, I like to call it like the unreasonable middle because it seems unreasonable to the mind, but it's like sort of the synthesis of these two things. And I think as human beings, we are essentially portals for synthesis. Think about it, like we're the biological synthesis of our parents. And then we get in enjoyments and different values or different things we're interested in. And then the way that we speak kind of synthesizes it together and we give something and people get to experience that. Um, I love synthesizing ancient wisdom, but with very day to day life without it being too like sort of wordy or just unrelatable. I love to synthesize those two things. I like to bring humor to things that you're not allowed to laugh at and synthesize those two things. So that's where I feel like bringing two things that seem in opposition and synthesize it. And that's like that unreasonable middle because it has looked unreasonable because maybe someone hasn't done that exact path before, which just shows that's because it's your path, your unique path.
Yeah. Well, actually, now that you say that, that is kind of how I was feeling. Was it's not like I had no idea what I wanted. It's actually because I knew pretty much what I wanted that I knew also this is not this is not it. Because I was very much interested in understanding the mind and how to create change in people. And so that's another thing that my friends at the time were saying, like, why are you leaving psychology? This is exactly what you want to do, you know, help people and stuff, mental health and stuff like that. So on the logical side, it made even less sense because it was not like I was dropping out of accounting. I was dropping out of psychology, which is, many people would say, like, well, this is leading you where you want to go. But yeah, yeah. So it was also, if I had been very honest with myself and, you know, not succumb to any what's it called? If I just fully believed in myself and anything I want to do, I can do, then I would have thought of it differently. Yeah, I would have thought like, man, I'm just freeing myself, which is partly how I felt. But there was also, yeah, also fear.
Well, a part of you is doing that, and then at the same time, it's just battling all these ways that we've been trained to interpret the world. And
Mm,
that's why the exercise that we spoke about halfway through this, about seeing how things change form, that nothing is going to disappear, that helps build trust. That, yes, I can't see the form that I'm going to be expressing and creating myself through. And that vision will become more clear. But in those moments, at least you can have trust going, I can't see the form, but that doesn't mean uh, what I truly want to do and express won't be expressed and be there, because it'll be in a form that you just may not be able to envision right now. But there's clues to it. And the clues will be, it'll be a synthesis. But as long as your brain is like, all this is over here and this is over here, and it doesn't logically make sense how they could both coexist, then it's going to cloud the vision.
mm. So every time you do this exercise for yourself of like, what, where is this thing I'm perceiving I'm lacking? What form is it in? The thing that I thought I had and is now gone. And every time you find a new form, you're training yourself to see it and to develop trust also, that things are unfolding and that you're not missing anything.
Yeah, you're training yourself that there's no loss or gain. You can't fuck it up.
Mm. And then the benefit of that is, I mean, there's obvious benefits as I'm saying it, but I'm curious what you would say. The benefit of like really feeling, not just intellectually understanding, but really feeling through having had many uh, bits of evidence of this, that you're not gaining or losing anything, and everything is just changing forms.
Well, then you're creating from a place of what you'd love to create, not what you feel you need to do to survive.
Hmm. Right. I'd love to. There are a few quotes that I pulled from your Instagram. I'd love to just read a couple and get your thoughts on them, if
Okay.
you'd be willing to expand. One of them was, "All chaos is order we have yet to understand," which I feel ties nicely into this.
Yeah. In my experience, all the chaotic times when I looked back on it and saw the golden thread, I saw how it all pieced together and it was ordered and happening for me. In the moment when I felt like my brain was just decomposing and disintegrating and my memories going, that was an extremely chaotic, it was an extremely chaotic years of my life. And when I look back on it, the endurance and the trust and the wisdom that I got from that is, I think, how else, when I'm put in the corner and in the dark, that's when it brought something out in me. I wasn't now just relying on my old systems and concepts for how I could be powerful or on track. Because if I compared it to my outer circumstances, it felt pretty depressing. But what I get from it now is, in losing my memory with that experience, it was helping me remember with my memory what's truly important. It's helping me to remember what is it that I have actually forgotten that intelligence could actually keep me in my head. What is it that I'm here to truly remember? And that's what guides and I feel this life force with me when we're having conversations like this, to truly remember what's there. Because each time I learn something incredible, or I see that there's no loss or gain, and that moment when you just see it's all there, it's a moment of just wonder, but also remembering, and then just going through periods of lapse and forgetting. So for order to ever exist, I think, well, there would have to be some sort of something that allows order to exist in the first place. And so there is a grand order that allows order to exist in the first place. And I would say chaos is just, from my perception, because I'm looking at it at this particular view. But when I zoom out, now all that randomness is part of a greater pattern. Or if I zoom in really close, then I can start to see that it's made up of lots of little order. But it's just my perception of chaos.
I feel like this would make such a big difference in our lives if we really, if we knew this as people. I think again, you ask the average person on the street about this, and they think, well, no, like, trust me, what I'm going through is fucking chaos. There's no order about this. So I think I lost you there.
Before it cut out, or what I heard from my part, was that it would be incredible for people to know this.
Yeah. So what are some of the questions that people can ask themselves to actually guide themselves into this recognition of, like, oh yeah, there's the order in this perceived chaos in my life.
Yeah.
And this thing that seemingly is going wrong, or yeah.
So there's a couple, and I just sort of want to tie that in with the Upanishads in India would say that it's impossible to learn elsewhere what someone's incapable of learning within their own body. And I find it so important, as you're doing, to make this super practical so you can have an embodied experience and synthesize that concept with experience and knowing. So the questions I would ask is, there's a few forms of order. There's the order of just seeing how it's serving me. So how is this serving me? What are the benefits, etc. Stuff like that. But then seeing that there is a grand order that I'm a part of, which is just seeing the balance moment to moment. You know, you see so many across different cultures and ages, the same things popping up about balance. You got the yin and yang over in the East. You got the golden mean with Aristotle over in the West. And in India, you've got the creation, management, and destruction gods. This thing that is happening at all times with balance. And then, of course, all the other variations of it across time. But this is like this golden thread that is consistent, and it stands the test of time. So to be able to experience that I'm a part of something greater, I like to think of, well, where is that balance moment to moment? In the moment that I am feeling sad, what am I actually feeling happy about that I was unconscious of? The moment that someone is, criticizing me, who's complimenting me? And where can I feel their energy and presence in my life complimenting me? The moment that I feel like people aren't giving me attention, who is giving me attention? And I've had those experiences in my life where I've been in a group with one business and I feel like, wow, I'm not being acknowledged. I'm being totally left out here. I'm being like not prioritized. And I'm feeling pretty minimized right now. And then that's how I felt in the moment. And I looked back on it thinking, okay, well, if I flip a coin or I throw a coin and it lands over there and I see a tails and it's 2 meters away from me, then how far is the heads? if the tails is 2 meters away from me, how far away is the heads?
2 meters.
2 meters away. Exactly. So if I see one side, I don't have to look any further than that to see the other side. So I could see the one side of not getting acknowledgement, of feeling being minimized, which is just showing, okay, well, that's say the tails. So there is a heads in that moment as well. And at that time that I was feeling that, when I looked back and reflected on it, I realized that in this other business that I have at that time and for that whole week and during that period, I was getting so like just supported and lifted up and complimented and people thanking me and just messages coming out of nowhere, seemingly saying thank you and just acknowledging me for stuff. And in the moment that I could see both there at the same time, it's like this beautiful synthesis where you're seeing the wholeness of the yin and yang. It's now not two sides, it's just one. And it's just, oh, beauty. That's what beauty truly is. You know, like a lot of people like to associate beauty with symmetry. So seeing symmetry in the universe in that was just like, wow, that's something that I can't break. That's going on at all periods, and this grand symmetry is happening in all these various different forms. And I get to see it in, because I don't see it, then I see it, then I don't. And it's just this incredible learning and experience to have, knowing that even if I don't know it and experience it, that it is happening.
Hmm.
And getting to pierce and see that veil is super cool. So I would ask, how to find order. How is it serving me? How's it serving me? How's it serving me? How's it serving my vision? How's it serving my strengths and skills and who I want to be? And using that North Star as a thing, how it's serving that, my true North Star. And then also seeing the opposites. And across time, again, various cultures, and the true deep and highest wisdom of these cultures has been pairing seemingly paradoxical opposites together. That is you can follow the ancient Egyptians and the hermetic beliefs. You can search for what is the true meaning of the alchemy and mental alchemy and emotional alchemy. You can look at Carl Jung in a more modern sense, synthesizing opposites together. Again, in simple ways, can look at the yin and yang. So yeah.
And when we ask ourselves, how is this serving me? Is this something that you would say we need to persist in? Because if someone has not been used to asking themselves that question, and they've been kind of just used to being like, well, this is good, obviously, and that's bad, obviously. And then they have this thing that's like they're perceiving as like really terrible thing happening in their life right now. And then they just ask, okay, how is this serving me? I would imagine their brain won't necessarily be, uh, I think it would be, I would imagine perhaps their brain wouldn't supply them with the answer straight away, since they
Well,
haven't been used to asking themselves that question.
so there's a lot of morals that get in the way of that. And it doesn't need to mean that, sure, just put on one side, sure, you can think the thing's bad, no problem. And that can remain bad if you want it to remain bad. Don't need to challenge that. I'm asking how it's serving you. Oh, maybe I'm getting connection out of talking to people about this bad thing. Maybe it's making me creatively come up with ideas. Maybe like now, because I'm doing that, I'm now creating these different opportunities. It's getting me up and doing something. Maybe it's serving me because I'm learning about a particular subject more, and learning about that particular subject is helping me be more aware of the people around me, and also a type of subject that I want to be able to educate people on in my life. You know, like finding out what it's serving, not trying to just wrestle with why the bad is good, because that it's being bad because of the morals. That that's what it is. That's what's making it bad. But don't need to threaten that. Just focusing on how is it actually serving you.
And zooming out, it sounds like, because like there can be way more benefits than the specific benefit you were looking for and are perceiving, I'm not getting that.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Well, then people are great at asking these questions. They're awesome at asking how it's not serving me, and
Mm,
they can be asking that question a lot, or they can do the opposite, like over exaggerating how something serves them. Like it's like in that supermarket hungry for love analogy that we were talking about, and that can really show up in dating, when you're sort of feeling really hungry or fantasizing about something, and then someone seems to match what you're looking for in that moment, and you don't know that they're actually more than that. But then we're sort of exaggerating who this person is, or that's probably not a great way to explain it. They're just, I'm in a state of hunger. They look better than they actually are.
yeah.
But if I look at the packet and really look at the ingredients, I'm thinking, actually, it's not really as good for me as I thought. I'm still really hungry, so I'm going to do it. But one of the ways would then be is actually the hunger in the first place, because I'm feeling at a loss. So balancing out that loss.
Mm, yeah.
Opened up like about 3 rabbit holes there.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, what direction do I want to take here? I was just thinking, like, we live in a world of so much illusion, and it seems like when we have this thing that as a human being we so fundamentally need, which is that golden nugget you were talking about, which is that self love, the unconditional self love that we all need and yearn for. The further we are from our own nugget, the bigger the illusions from the outside.
Oh, yeah. Wow. So well put. Wow.
And the more we are connected with our own nugget, the more, yeah, the more clearly we can see others.
Yeah, the secret is the nugget was there the whole time. But in our perception, that nugget is in the other hand, and that's what we're focused on. That's the illusion.
Right, 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 right. Yeah, I was actually interpreting the metaphor differently. You were saying the nugget is in my hand, as in the source of love and
Yeah,
validation
which is
is
true.
close to
Yeah.
me. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it is, and that is my experience, that it is in your hand. And then when we go back and truly explore, you can see how it's still in your pocket, but the experience was that it's completely in your hands. And that's what I'm experiencing. And then, so yeah, then getting to the point where you realize it's inside you and it's there, then I'm not going to be mistaking thinking that it's in your hands, and truly experiencing that, because that's what I
Mm.
believe without realizing.
And then when you come into a relationship and you have your nugget in your hand, and the other
This makes
person,
sense. Yeah.
huh?
Totally plucked. No, it still applies, but yeah, I mean, there's there's more opportunities to be challenged. That's for sure.
What do you
But
mean?
it still applies. Like, as in, you'll just that nugget thing will have to be remembering it more often in a relationship, because that part will be tested when it
Right.
comes to being deeply intertwined with someone.
Mm.
But no more difficult, I guess, than just normal day-to-day life with every other part of your life.
Right.
But it can just really feel like that part is in the other person's hands, is all I'm saying.
Mm. So in a way, it's an opportunity for growth, because I mean, correct me if I'm interpreting this in a different way, but if being in a relationship, in an intimate relationship with someone, means that sometimes it will really feel like that nugget is in their hand, then that sounds like a great opportunity for you to grow and recognize that even when it really feels like it's in someone else's hand, it's really still in your hand.
Yeah. Well, okay. So this is where it comes into like mirroring wounds, because say I'm with someone and I want to be with someone who puts their nugget in my hand, and then I feel all powerful. Some people could be in a relationship where it kind of doesn't feel nice when someone puts all their nuggets in your hand. And it's
Yeah.
just like, oh, It doesn't feel great. Like, you don't want that. Maybe it feels overly needy, or it's just like a little bit, you want to push it away a bit.
Mhm.
You don't want to feel overly responsible for their entire nugget. But then there are some people who do want to feel responsible for it. They feel more powerful. Like, yes, I'm holding their whole nugget in my hand. And so it could seem like this person is a person who gives everything, this person who just holds and takes everything. But they're a mirror, because for this person to feel powerful, they need to feel like their worth is in the worth of how they are when someone's giving them their nugget. So they're still giving their worth away, depending on someone else to give their worth to them for them to feel powerful. So that's why it's actually a complete mirror, even though it looks opposite on the
Yeah.
surface.
Yeah. So the person who
Dependency,
right.
codependency.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the person who thinks, yeah, I want the person I'm dating to give me their nugget and think that I am that source
Yeah.
would not attract someone who's like, well, no, it's my nugget.
Yeah. Completely.
They would just not be a match.
So it's almost seeing like it comes out in seemingly opposite ways. This person's holding and being all the power, this person's giving, but actually in an energetic way, they're mirroring each other's wounds.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Like if I think that my nugget is in always in someone else's hand, then I will attract someone to show me exactly what I'm like the 3D image of what I'm uh I don't know if it's clear, but yeah, they're like well, a mirror, a reflection
Yeah,
is actually
yeah.
the
No,
simple way.
you're right. It's like when you said the 3D image, what I'm imagining is like the hologram of what I'm unconsciously
E
wanting.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Like life is creating a hologram to be like, "Look, you're always you're always seeking validation in other people's in other people, and you're giving people your nugget. So this is meet John. John always wants your nugget." And you're like, "Oh, I don't know why he's like that." And he's like, "Well, this is just your reflection." Yeah.
Yeah, that's why
So
it's
we can
important to find like when people have patterns. So if I have a pattern that, if I'm attracting the same type of people, um, then I need to find whatever I'm seeing in them, how is it inside of me? Because if it's a mirror, it's obviously trying to show me something.
Hmm. So then other people are a reflection of us, and the patterns that we recognize between us and other people are really just patterns of us with us.
Our experience of it is a reflection of us. Yes.
Right. So our relationship with others is merely a reflection of our relationship with ourselves.
Yes, consciously and unconsciously.
Right. Yeah.
Like I've noticed the people uh, that I'm feeling resentful of in my life are expressing in a way that I suppress. And so it's almost like they're great role models, even if it's bad or good, whatever, but just the actual art of expressing the thing that I repress inside me. And I'm repressing it because I think it could be bad. But deep, 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 deep down, I do want to express it. And I want to express it in a way that's meaningful or powerful, but I feel guilty and shameful about it.
Hmm. So the people is like that saying. They say something like the people who piss you off the most are actually your greatest teachers.
Yeah. And that's where people then, or well, in my life, I don't need to speak about other people. I've felt resistant to feeling like this person is my teacher. Like, get fucked. I don't want that role in my life. But if we just reverse engineer it, that they're a reflection of me, the inner master teacher is within if I can humble myself to listen to it. And when I say humble myself, like get beyond the judgments that or the me trying to control and be so powerful to create life in a certain way, and just quieten down and not think that I know it all, and listen to what this inner master is teaching me, and own that I also want to express those things that I feel shameful about expressing. That's what I mean by humbling myself.
So that which I see in this individual who I'm right now resenting, I'm only resenting them because they're showing me that which I'm suppressing, which I deep down, I really want to express.
Well, deep, it's a reflection of the shame inside me. I'm suppressing the shame.
The resentment is a reflection of the shame, and their expression of that trait is just a reflection of the trait I'm repressing but deep down want to express.
Yeah, like I did it in my life, and in at a time that's what I wanted, and then I judged myself and felt a big shame about it. So then that gets hidden and pressed down, and then when someone else comes across and touches the bruise that's here, my shame bruise, I'm gonna thinking, "You fucking dick." Like, yeah, all these sorts of things, and I'm gonna be resenting them. And there's 2 parts of that, they're just allowing themselves to just do the thing that's so horrible that I can't allow myself to do, but also that the way that I'm judging myself for that shame, not realizing because I pressed it down so far, but I'm now doing those same judgments onto them. The way to reconcile this is that because I can feel my elevation over here, I know what's right, I'm morally superior, the person I'm resenting is less than. That's like the external yang trying to match the internal yin. Well, this is more the yang and the yin. But what I need to do is I can only match internal with what's in here. So what I see in the person I'm resenting, finding out where do I do the exact same thing. And that's going to seem like, I don't do that. I absolutely don't do that thing, because I'm creating this identity persona to cover the cracks of the things I feel guilt and shame about. It's like an overcompensation to avoid. Yeah. So just find out where I'm doing the same thing.
All right, so you were saying you were talking about yeah, the traits that we perceive in others and that we can resent and stuff, and yeah, it sounded like actually the people that we resent the most are opportunities to deepen our connection and love for ourselves, because they're expressing that which we're not aware that we have in ourselves, and I guess not allowing ourselves to consciously express.
Yeah. Yeah, you got it. It's that outer conflict is mirroring a hidden war that's going on inside.
Mm.
And so bringing essentially, peace to that war, people could be like, oh, I am at peace. But what I mean is there is a part inside of us that's being condemned by us. And I'm doing the condemning, but I'm also the one receiving that condemning in myself. And so those mirrors with people is an opportunity. Doesn't mean you have to have these people in your life. And, sometimes they're forcefully in your life, that feels like. And so being able to at least uh, resolve that internal conflict will drastically change the experience of how you relate with that person outside, because you've just transformed how you relate to it inside.
So it has to, yeah. So your relationship with the outside must change.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So if someone's having a conflict with another person, you would say first identify the thing they're doing that's pissing you off, and identify where you're like work on your relationship with yourself about this thing
Yeah.
first as the
If
start.
if you got the luxury to do that, if someone's like already their punch is already coming to your face, then maybe duck, dive, dodge.
Right.
But yeah, then if you get time to truly, if it's something that's consuming you, if it's
Mm.
consuming you and taking away the time and space and energy of your mind that it feels like it's just become your entire world and that's not the world you're wanting to live in, then yes, resolving that and finding out where am I doing that internally? And it'll feel extremely counterintuitive, but not just internally. Where do I do that? Where do I do that to other people? Just find out where you do it because that's going to bring up what was hidden out of sight due to shame and judgment. And then when you bring in and see that you're actually doing it and we're unaware of it, and then when you're aware of it, that sort of lets the pressure steam out a little bit. Then you can start taking steps to when you do it, how it served you and others. And that can be really scary waters to walk through and then find out that with the other person. But the thing is it's more about being able to have the opportunity and choice to relate to it differently in the moment than feeling just automatically consumed and reactive.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean you have to make what they're doing morally good. It's about having that choice, isn't it?
Right. I feel like this way of thinking would be quite a paradigm shift, uh, to say the least, because it implies that you cannot perceive something in anyone that you don't do yourself. And I think many of us see ourselves as people who are, like, oh no, I'm not greedy, I'm not selfish, I'm not like this. I'm this kind of person, I'm generous and I'm this and that. And we disown parts of ourselves and say, I'm not like this. So I think it could be quite confronting to someone to be like, wait, where am I actually selfish? If this person has constructed an identity where they're like, no, 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 I'm selfless. I don't have any selfishness inside me. And then to suggest that, well, actually, you're absolutely selfish in your own form, like we all are. I feel like some people would really struggle to take that in.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's the law of correspondence. There's a universal law of correspondence. Patterns, the patterns you find on the micro, you can find in the planes in between, and they emerge in the macro. You only have to look at like a photo of some nebula or galaxy out in space and then look at someone's eye and iris and zoom in and see how they almost have like the exact same pattern. So visually, that's a correspondence. And there's law of correspondence on different planes. So the internal landscape is going to be reflected by the external landscape. Now, people may take that too literally, like the forms of it, but your experience of the internal landscape will reflect the experience of the external landscape. For example, um, if I imagine if the parts that I love in myself emit just a sort of light that I don't need to change, then there's parts of myself which are like this elevated special light that I really want more in me. And I'm almost like salivating to have more and for people to compliment me on those parts and have those parts validated, right? And they're the parts I want to be more of. Then there's parts I want to be less of. So you can almost see it's like this sort of nice balance. And then there's parts I really want to be more of. And then there's parts I want to be less of. These are like the sort of um, chasms or, the valleys and troughs in this landscape. Then there's this, sort of fields and everything. And then there's this sort of like elevated parts that I really want to be more of.
Mhm.
And that's how I feel inside. So let's say that then emerges with the law of correspondence into the outer world. There's things lovingly neutral about and acceptance of. And then there's people that I see that represent that elevation side of me where I really want more of that and I want more of them in my life and I want to be more of that. And then there's parts that represent then the chasms. And because those are the parts I don't want in myself, I don't want them in my life. So in the outer life, I want less of those people and I don't want those people. I want more of these, less of that. And now I'm trying to split. And that's the same thing that I'm trying to do inside. And it's just corresponding and being mirrored on the outside as well. So being able to use the outer as a way to accept and see the wholeness of the inner is, uh, when I see where I'm doing those things, I can then accept and love it in myself. Now, if I'm accepting and loving, I'm not going to have that tension that I need more of it or I have to have less of it. Then that tension isn't coming out as much externally. And then I'm trying to control the movements of these other people to satiate in reaction to that tension so that I don't feel that tension. But they're just placeholders. The real work is internally.
Hmm. That's an important part of. I think you mentioned earlier something about uh, an Egyptian text. Was it hermetic?
Yeah,
Did you
like the
mention
hermetic
it?
corpus. Yeah,
Right.
the emerald tablets.
Right. Isn't that like a foundational part of it? Is they're saying the external is reflecting the internal.
In the law of correspondence, yes. And then there's other universal laws, brilliant universal laws, law of polarity, law of gender, law of rhythm, law of vibration. You said the law of correspondence. Um, and then there's a couple of, I mean, there's 7 main ones that they suggest, but then there's other ones like the law of the one and the many, the law of mentalism. That's the main law of the hermetic sort of practice and teachings. But then you've got other universal laws. We're talking about the law of conservation, the one I just said, law of the one and the many. But essentially, to me, the big players are, of course, the law of the one and the many, because that's talking about the forms of everything that encapsulates. The law of mentalism, which is just the all. The law of polarity, which is there's positive and negative conditions or forces or elements, attributes, positive and negative attributes to everything, whether that's from radiation and gravitational forces or just electrons and positrons, positive and negatives, and then sort of psychologically benefits and drawbacks to things. So this is more just what is creating the fabric of reality, these universal laws. So the law of polarity, the law of conservation is essentially just that there is a conservation of that, but the law of polarity already stipulates that. Law of rhythm is great when I apply that to my life, that things can be like in seasons, even though there is the opposite happening at the same time. To our experience, there is seasons. And that is absolute. Like think about Earth. If you're in one location, you're going to experience these different seasons throughout the year.
Mm.
You're going to be experiencing different seasons throughout your life, and everyone's going through their own seasons.
Yeah. So the law of polarity, it kind of explains that quote from William Shakespeare where he says, "Nothing is good or bad. Only thinking makes it so." Like there are positives to everything. Even the worst thing you can imagine has positives, and even the best thing has negatives. So really, there's no such thing as a good or a bad thing. There are just different vantage points that you can look at it from, and then based on that vantage point, you will perceive it in a certain way, and then suddenly it's good or it's bad.
Yeah,
But
yeah. The meaning you make of it.
mm, and the meaning you make of it is entirely in your control.
Yeah, it can feel like it's not always in control, but that's where, because of the conditioning and beliefs and things that are just unconsciously going, but that's to me what true free will is your choice to direct your focus and your thought energy. Even if it feels like it's automatically being entangled with beliefs and all these doubts and whatever, you can still make a choice to explore a different thought and
And
not, yeah,
yeah.
not trying to delete a thought. That's where it gets mixed up. Oh, I have to crush and delete limiting beliefs. How's that working out for you? How's it? Have you ever actually got rid of parts of yourself? Have I bet those doubts have transformed into another doubt. But what you can do is just explore the other side. That's why, as I was saying before, if you see the heads, the tails isn't far away, vice versa. And so just explore the opposites. When you see that it's in balance, you're not going to reject it or try and forcefully consume more of it. There's a certain safety, and in your nervous system, you feel that safetiness, being able to see the balance.
Mm.
That's the beauty of like that word. When something is like sort of some sort of disease or injury, it's impaired. And so I just think, all right, it's a nice word to remind me to pair together again the opposites.
Mm.
Things seem broken until I pair together the opposites again. They seem broken or impaired.
Beautiful.
Big
Before,
conversation.
yeah, indeed. Before we go, I'd like to ask you, uh, if you could share one thought with the world, what would it be?
Wow. That a part of you has been at home this whole time. And that part of you has never forgotten you, no matter or how many times you may have forgotten it, feeling like it's abandoned you or you've abandoned it, that it's always been sitting there by the fire next to you and just looking at you with glistening and radiant eyes of love. And the moment that you get to remember that it's been there and always there is a beautiful warmth, and you don't have to change or be anyone else to remember that you're home.
It's amazing. Thanks so much for coming on, Dom. I appreciate the time and just you coming on to the podcast.
Thanks, Orlando. I really appreciate the opportunity, and it's awesome to speak with you. And yeah, I love our conversations, and thanks for holding this.
Thank you.